So the LA vax mandates are here. And I can't help but notice this is a perfect example of what I talk about with neoliberalism, right? Because remember before, I have broken down that there are a lot of different groups. It's not left, right. It's not that simple. There's a lot of different groups, but I've always said the most damaging one to the country, where all of this stemming from, when you trace this all back to where it's stemming from, it usually comes from shit libs or neo-libs. You can use them interchangeably. The far left would not be getting where they are if it wasn't shit libs covering for them for money, right? Shit libs are not leftists. Shit libs are not progressives. They look like it because they pretend to be, because it makes them seem popular. Because if it's one thing you can tell will spot a shit lib, it'll say they stand for X, Y, and Z. But then when it comes to something that will come in contradiction to that, they'll immediately change to whatever the new establishment narrative is, even if it's against what they just said they stood for, because all they care about is looking good to other shit libs, who are mostly white. Like, for example, do you think the Black Lives Matter sign in the suburban white woman's yard is for some sort of solidarity with black people, or is it to show off to the white woman across the street how progressive she is? Right? Because one thing I'd like to point out is how the right covered the riots. They say mainstream media doesn't manipulate them, but they do. Because majority, 96% were peaceful. That's not me saying it's okay, because I understand a small group of people can cause a fuck ton of damage. I'm not defending that at all. But I'm pointing out how wherever there was violence, that's where mainstream media showed up. When there was not, they weren't nowhere to be found. Right? And they do this because violence makes them money. Same thing with the Capitol. I said, it's a small group of people that can cause a lot of damage, and I don't like blaming everybody for the actions of a small group of people. Now, what does this have to do with the vax mandates and shit liberty? Well, because it amazes me how, again, these so-called progressives that want to stand up to things like systemic racism all of a sudden are for a vax mandate that is disproportionately going to hurt black wealth and black people's ability to function in society as a whole, right? Because the majority of us are not vaxxed, right? We don't trust the government. Me, I'm not eligible anyway, right? I don't want it, nor am I eligible anyway, so I don't care. But when it comes to medical things, we are stubborn as hell, right? It's the Chris Rock joke where it's like, you know, you could break all your bones and your mom would be like, take Robitussin, right? Because statistically, we are the least likely to go to the doctors because we're stubborn. But on top of that, when you throw the federal government in there, now we really don't trust things, okay? So now you have all these white liberals who are saying how important the BLM movement was because black people are standing up for their civil rights against systemic racism. As soon as the vax mandate show up, fuck them niggas, right? You notice how it changed so quickly, right? You'll see the shit libs who will say how they're standing up for human rights, BLM everywhere, and then on their same Facebook, Twitter feed, they'll say like, all the people who are against getting the vaccination or won't get it are stupid, and I hope they catch COVID and die. And I'm like, so you wish the majority of black people would die? And then they can't answer that question because they realize no matter which way they answer that, it's going to make them look bad, and all they care about is looking good, so they block you at that point. Right? So let me go into this real quick. Sorry, that was a little side rant. Because I am sick of the fucking shit libs, because they are the problem with this country. So, now it requires full COVID vaccination is now required to enter bars, nightclubs, and wineries, but it actually goes farther than that. Now, this is what they were posting only 4 days ago. So now let's jump ahead a little bit, a couple days. Vaccine proof required, a strict mandate takes effect in LA. So now you need it for shopping malls, theaters, gyms, nail salons, etc. I don't, because I basically just shop at places or go to places where there are no mandates. The exception, like grocery stores and private business, is just like, you know, mask for, and I'm like running in and out. I'm like, fine, it's your business, right? That's fine. But everywhere else I am, it's like gym, church, beach, doctor's office. None of that requires any of this vaccination stuff. At least where I'm going. They already said they're not enforcing it. And Villanueva, as much of a corrupt piece of shit he is, did say he's not going to enforce this. Anyway, Los Angeles people entering a wide variety of businesses in the city of Los Angeles had to show proof of the C-19 vaccine starting Monday. One of the country's strictest measures aimed at slowing the spread of the Rona took effect. The new rule covers businesses ranging from restaurants to shopping malls. Most of the shopping malls in LA are gone. Like, at least all the ones near me, where I used to go to as a kid, they're all gone. So, movie theaters, nail and hair salons. At Blue Bottle Coffee in the city's Los Feliz neighborhood, a sign in front of the door reminded patrons to show their proof of vaccination for permission to eat indoors. And now, depending on where their business is, they're going to lose a ton of business. Now, again, if this was a government-free zone, right? If the government didn't involve themselves in these mandates of private businesses, no private business would do this. None. Unless they want to go bankrupt. Or just remain really small. Because most people don't want to do that. And you'd be cutting out a massive portion of your customer base. So if there was no government involvement, I would say, okay, do it, stupid. Fine. Your business, wreck it. Cut out, depending on where you are, anywhere from 20 to even up to 70% of your customer base. Okay. But now the government's trying to pressure them to do it. Now we're in a different area. So here's where it gets weird. The messenger, Matthew Cadena, said the morning rush was mostly smooth as customers handed over their vaccine cards or showed photos of the cards on their cell phones, and some patrons had images of their vaccine cards on their phone home screens. That's just weird. And again, now, this is depending on where it is. Alright, so most people are accommodating and understanding, and like I said, it's easily normalized for them. Now, let's move somewhere else, right? So now let's go to a black neighborhood. All right, so let's head to maybe parts of South Central, the outskirts of downtown, East LA. Let's go into a heavily black neighborhood, right? And you're starting your own, starting a black business there. Good. We need to building wealth, which is great. It's what we need. And now the government is ordering your business to cut out anywhere from 50 to 70%, depending on where you are, of your customer base. Now, in the white neighborhoods, the vaccination rates are like 90 plus. And I'm just pointing out black people because Asians are also heavily unvaccinated too. But I'm gonna focus on what I know. A policy initiated by the government that is unnecessary, that is going to disproportionately affect black people and their wealth. That sounds like systemic racism. Because there's a difference between a necessary policy. Like, here's my problem, right? You have that fucking left-wing tap-dancing clown, Abram X. Kennedy, who just says goofy shit every 5 seconds. He'll say every law that leads to any sort of racial inequity is systemic racism. No. Nobody who understands the argument has ever argued that. Of course, the right loves him because he makes dumb straw men that the right love to attack because it's easy, right? But it's more so about unnecessary laws that have really bad impacts on certain communities. So I would say that a vaccine mandate would fall into that category. And of course, the right likes to play what I call Schrodinger's racism, which is when it's Dems doing it, systemic racism exists. But then when it's somebody on the left pointing it out, it exists, or any black person for that matter, then it magically doesn't exist and it's all in your head. So I don't want to hear any fucking clown on the right using that word in relation to these mandates. Now, where are the shit libs who said they care about systemic racism, all of a sudden, last year saying they're fighting for, we need to fight for black people's civil rights, but now their choice to choose, oh, fuck them niggas, right? See how that changed real quick? See how many people on the left hoping the people who are unvaccinated get sick and wish harm upon them? And I'm like, you hope to harm the majority of harm becomes upon the majority of black people? Why? I mean, you even had BLM in New York protesting this. Where were the shit libs? I didn't see him anywhere, and that's why they're fucking shit libs and not progressives. I'm pointing this out because I'm okay with principled progressives. I am not one. I am firmly, like, traditionally right-wing. I do not like a lot of the things the progressives are proposing. I can agree with them on some things when it comes to policy. But you can find the principled ones versus the ones that are actually just shit libs. Because like I said, it can be hard to differentiate them because the shit libs just want to look good. So they will use a lot of talking points from progressives to make themselves look good. But they'll turn on a dime if they think the new narrative will make me look good. That's why I say shit libs have no principles. They don't give a shit. So, moving on. The mandate was anticipated at Bodybuilders Gym in Silver Lake neighborhood, where employees for months have logged the vaccination status of patrons in an internal system that is proof is already verified next time members come to the gym. I love how you can go get booze, cigarettes, and weed, right? No problem. But you can't go to the gym. And then tell me it's about public safety. Okay. Alright. Good thing I only will go to a gym that doesn't enforce this, which I do. So, I'm fine. No mask mandates, no vax mandates. Life has been relatively the same for me because I don't really go to places that have the mandates. But from what I heard, if Biden gets his way with OSHA, which right now the Supreme Court is shooting down, but there would be narcs going from business to business, checking on you. I'm sure that will go well and won't end in a lot of people getting cursed out or threatened with violence. I'm not saying do that. I'm saying a lot of people are fed up. And guess what? It won't end here. It's going to keep going. And to all the people that keep saying slippery slope fallacy, I love it. Slippery slope is not a fallacy, right? Usually when people use slippery slope fallacy, it's when people are connecting things that make no sense together. But I'm like, how far do we have to go before, okay, they're incrementalizing things. 15 days, no mask mandates, no vax mandates. Once you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask. Now you have to be vaxxed and wear a mask. We won't mandate vaccinations. Now we mandate vaccinations. We won't mandate masks. Now we mandate masks. There will be no booster mandate. Now we're kind of moving in that direction. It's going to keep happening. So, he said, the assistant general manager said many patients volunteered to show their proof before the mandate started. It seems like our demographic wants to know they're safe. That is fine. If they want to do it as a business, fine. But when governments are mandating, now we have problems. Not even to mention the problem that big pharma cannot, like, Pfizer, Moderna, they're not held liable for anything that could go wrong, which is insane to me. As much as I'm, like I said, you've known, I'm not really a fan of DeSantis, but I did give him mad props for making it so if your business makes you get the vaccine and you have adverse reactions, you could hold the business responsible, like liable. I was like, all right, that was actually a good call. Good call on his part on that one. I would prefer if Big Pharma was held responsible, but the merger of corporation and state going on right now. They go on to say how it's going to basically be museums and convention centers and etc., etc. I would not be surprised if this gets to healthcare. This is why, one of the few actual principled progressives, like Jimmy Dore. I know you have so many people on the left that are like, oh, the right listens to him. Well, maybe the right listens to him because they both hate the systems of power that are in place right now, and it's not necessarily they care about each other's politics right now is not a matter for them. All right. But one thing he says that makes no effing sense to me is how you can be so for Medicare for all while you see what the government is doing. I will never understand this. So you want the government, which is already kind of in charge of healthcare because we have this disgusting, weird, merged private-public thing. Why would they not say, no vax, no insulin for you? Why wouldn't they do that? Like, you're just giving them another piece of leverage to make you do something. I'll never understand that. Now he's for UBI and everything, and he's just showing how corrupt these people are, and I'm like, why would you want to give them more leverage over you, my guy? I don't get it. I know we have the people. We just need to get the right people in power. Yeah, sure. And maybe it'll work during their terms. And then the next guy gets in. And then what? They're just going to make sure you have the good people forever? Because that's not how it works. History shows that's not the case. Goes on to talk about how, cases went up. And we had the worst spike in 2020. I know personally, I had family that got it. I got it myself, but it didn't affect me. I just have a really strong immune system. Always advocated for people to do what is best for you, what you feel is safe. If you want the vaccination but you're against mandates, I've already said go get it to protect yourself, and just don't disclose your medical status to anybody. If you oppose the mandates, you can still get it and oppose and actively resist mandates. I don't get these dummies on the right that will actually probably need it, right? They'll be overweight or unhealthy, and then they'll just not get it out of spite, and then get sick and die from it. And I'm like, you could have just gotten it and then not told anybody, right? If someone says show us your papers, you could have just gotten it, and then when they say show us your papers, go fuck off, narc. Right? I don't get it. So jumping ahead, it goes on to show how bad it was in 2020. I saw it firsthand, but there were other states that weren't putting in all these restrictions, and they were doing fine. Even certain urban areas, same thing, we're doing fine. So, it says their first offense will be a warning, and any subsequent ones will produce fines running from $1,000 to $5,000 for businesses. And again, who is going to be most likely affected? What community will be most likely affected? And guess what happens? The shit libs are all cheering. Good, another policy that will hurt black wealth, and the shit libs are cheering, while simultaneously talking about how much they give a shit about us and our choices, right? I don't get why it says shopping malls are exempt, stores in shopping malls, but other retail stores are not. Like I said, this shit doesn't make any sense. They're just making crap up. Again, this is just the stupid incrementalism that's gonna keep going on. And pointing that the people who are going to check this could be at risk of aggression. And I'm like, yeah, so maybe you shouldn't do this. Stop pushing people, because they're getting fed up. I love this. Only a handful of people have seen the mandates as nonsensical, because they are. The rules don't make any fucking sense. That's what Kadeen, the manager, said for his restaurant. Those who don't want to show proof have to eat and drink at outdoor tables. If that's your business's rules, that's fine, but again, this is the government getting involved. Now, this is probably going a bit long, but I just wanted to point this out, and how, where is the principled left that cares about black communities? Where'd they all go? Where did they all go? When black people, majority, said, you know what, I don't want it, I'm good. I don't trust the government, I'm good. Right? You've already done tons of experiments on us throughout the past century plus. I mean, you already had Tuskegee, you had the St. Louis nuclear tests, you had, it goes on and on and on. And again, all those shit libs that cared about our choices and rights all disappeared real quick. They went, fuck them niggas, in 2 seconds. And guess what? If this does take effect, and it does shut down black businesses because of the waning customer base, because black people a lot of us just don't trust it or don't want it. Guess what? I already know what the shit libs are gonna do. They're gonna, this is somehow the right's fault. And it's just like, yo, fuck off. So I just want to talk about that. I'm gonna see how this plays out. Probably not gonna affect me at all. That doesn't mean I'm not advocating against this. I'm just saying because I was careful with my choices of where to do business. Which I would recommend people do in California. And if you're against these mandates, support businesses that will not ask for it. Alright? So, take it easy. Don't get shot. It's not good for you.